Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you guys are doing well on this day after Memorial Day weekend. Hope everybody is feeling rested and ready for an amazing session. As we're waiting for people to join in a few things, feel free to use the chat. Feel free to type maybe even where you're zooming in from. If you're zooming in from Harlem, I'm personally in Harlem myself. If you're coming from Brooklyn, let us know where you're zooming in from. Would love to know. And I would love to know who had the best Memorial Day weekend. Did anybody do anything fun? Me and my wife, we took a walk around Central Park. What else did we do? We went up to Connecticut, did some fun things. So let me know what you did. Love it. We'll give it a few more minutes as people are joining in. So take this time before we get started to maybe get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. And we'll get started in a bit. How's it going, Tom? Hope you're doing well. And it is totally up to you guys. You guys can do camera on, camera off, whatever makes you guys feel comfortable. No mandate here. Inaugurated the grill. That's some good stuff. I wish I had a grill. I did make some, don't judge me, I made some vegan burgers on the skillet. Not on the grill, but they were really good. Promise you. We'll get started here in one more moment. Joining in from Delaware, I love it. My home state is Maryland. Always good stuff. Homemade mac and cheese, you're speaking my language now. You're speaking my language. All right, it is 12:05 on the dot. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kevin Myers. For those of you who have not met me, I'm actually the ergonomist here at Columbia University. And all that means is I help people be more comfortable and efficient at their workplace. And we could find their workplace be anywhere. It could be in the office, it could be in industry, it could be in film. Most of the time I'm working with people in the office here at Columbia, whether it be from faculty to staff. And it is really cool that we see ergonomics really span all of our lives. It doesn't really matter if it's in the workplace. I'm sure all of us have commuted somewhere and have sat for a long time and have been like, oh, my back hurts. That is ergonomics as well. Or I'm sure some of us have gotten stressed on the job, and next thing you know, you are procrastinating with a different shopping tab up for an hour. That's ergonomics too. So we're going to talk a little bit about finding empowerment through ergonomics today. I know it's been a crazy, maybe 15 months with the pandemic, whether you've been working from the office or you've been working from home. All of our lives have changed a bit. We've all been affected in some way or form. So I'm going to talk about how you can be a little bit better, whether you're in a remote office or you're at your regular office. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions that pop up, feel free to go ahead and throw them in the chat. We can get towards to them at the end. And then we'll also have a time at the end. If you want to hold your questions, you can unmute and interact a bit. Sound good? Perfect. Perfect. So when I think about ergonomics, as I mentioned, ergonomics is the study of being comfortable and efficient at your workplace. But sometimes when I say ergonomics, people have no clue what I'm talking about. You can get from economics to the chair guy to all these different things. So I thought about ergonomics. I think about it in questions. Um, Questions lead to great answers. So if you ask the right questions, it can really help you get to where you need to be. Specifically, like if you think about your own life, for me, if I didn't ask my wife the right question, I probably would have still been sitting in the friend zone. But I asked her the right question, and luckily we got married. So we can ask the right questions to get us to the right answers. So when I'm thinking about ergonomics, I'm going to give you guys a series of questions that you can go throughout your day and you can ask yourself, and hopefully that's going to help you feel the authority and feel empowered to make your own workspace really great. The first question I like to ask myself is, what is my atmosphere like? Now, this may not be a question that you think about when you think about ergonomics. Maybe you're thinking about, oh, my musculoskeletal body, how my body feels when I do ergonomics. But studies show that when you have increased job stress, you also have increased discomfort. And I think we've all probably felt that when we've gotten so much stress, whether it come from work stress or life stress. And next thing we know, our discomfort feels different. But you also think about atmosphere. Atmosphere directly affects how we feel. Now, I know that you may have not been to a concert in a long time because of the pandemic, but think about your favorite concert you've ever been to. And you go into that place, and maybe you've had a bad day, and then you leave feeling better. So atmosphere has an effect on us. So what I like to do when I'm working is I like to shift up my atmosphere. So I'm going to shift the atmosphere a little bit for us today and play some music for you guys that I like to play as I'm working. It could be something as simply as playing music. It could be taking a break and going outside to walk for a few minutes in some greenery or in the park. Could be maybe planting yourself closer to a window for that work meeting or that work phone call to kind of shift your atmosphere. We are all going through a whole bunch of different things, and I can't personally speak to all the places and all the different barriers that all of you may have to deal with. Some of you guys are working from home with kids. Some of you guys are working with spouses or limited space, but you get to control your atmosphere. So this could be one thing that you can ask yourself: how is my atmosphere? Another question you want to ask is, how am I sitting? That is a great question for you to go through a series of different checklists to say, how am I sitting? Now I'm going to turn myself so you can see a little bit how I'm sitting here. Now when I'm sitting, say I'm using this as my workstation. It's a little floating desk here that's leaning against the wall. And say I have this make-believe laptop, because I don't have another laptop to show you guys. But if I'm looking at this laptop, I'd be working somewhere around here. One thing I want to ask myself is my back fully connected to my chair? A lot of us, we have chairs, but we don't use them. We may sit at like a kitchen table, and we may find ourselves working something like this. So we want to always ask ourselves, am I connected to the chair? This chair is hopefully going to give you some type of lumbar support. And it doesn't really matter. I don't have an ergonomic chair here, but if I am allowing myself to be supported, now my back and my shoulders don't have to do the work they would have to do if I was simply like this. If I was like this for 8 hours a day, what is going to happen is my back is going to get tired at some point, and that's going to lead to fatigue. That fatigue is going to lead to discomfort, and then that discomfort is going to lead to injury. So I want to sit all the way back to be supported by my chair, allow myself to be supported. Next thing I can ask myself is, are my feet fully flat on the ground or any flat surface? And when I say any flat surface, that could mean maybe you are using a binder as a footrest, or you're using what I like to use personally at home, something like this, foam roller. I'll put it right underneath my feet. You can look around your house and say, hey, what can I use to actually create some stability for myself? Now you probably ask yourself, why would I use a footrest? The footrest will help to kind of basically stretch your lower back. When my legs raise, then also my back has to lengthen a bit. So now it's not as compressed as I usually am when I'm sitting here. It's also going to push me back into my chair. It's going to allow me to sit and be reminded that I need to sit all the way back. Also, a footrest is something good if you feel like maybe I'm a little too short for where I'm typing. If you see my hands right here, when I'm typing, I am slanted up to this keyboard where it would be. So I want to hopefully sit up a little higher. Maybe you can use something at home, like a pillow. You could sit on top of it. This is gonna raise you up a bit, so that now my posture is a little bit better. I'm a little bit more parallel to this typing position. Now I'm gonna scoot in here. Another question I might wanna ask myself is, how far away from the keyboard am I? If the keyboard is really far, maybe say somewhere back here, or I am really far from the keyboard, I'm gonna have to do almost like an arm raise majority of the day to get to my keyboard. So I want to scoot closer to the keyboard, and I want to bring the keyboard closer to me. So that's going to allow me to keep my arms next to my torso, my elbows at 90 degrees, and kind of make a really good angle here. So now I'm in a better posture. Another thing you can ask yourself and look at is your monitor height. Say I had this monitor here. Now that I've come up higher in my chair, I might want to look at maybe putting some books underneath my monitor to raise them up. And if I have a laptop, which what I have here, maybe you would want to. The only thing that I would suggest you buying is maybe a remote keyboard and mouse that you can plug into your laptop. That's going to allow you to have some separation here, so you can raise your laptop height with some books, and you can bring that keyboard and your mouse closer to you so that you would be in a nice, comfortable position here. So, just a review of that question. How am I sitting? When I'm asking myself, how am I sitting, I'm going to allow myself to think about, am I in a neutral posture? Neutral posture, the only thing that means is sitting in a way that is going to make it easier for me to work throughout the day without the discomfort. Now, a question that I want to ask myself, because there's only one posture that I could tell you is going to help you throughout the day. It's not neutral posture. You could sit in a neutral posture for maybe 2 hours, and it doesn't matter how healthy you are or how great of a posture you have, you're still going to feel some type of discomfort because we're not meant to be static all day. Best thing I can tell you to do is move. Question, have you moved today? So you want to think about, when is my schedule of movement? What I like to do is I like to even plug reminders on my calendar for every hour on the hour. It's really easy for me to wrap my brain around that. Sometimes I'll set meetings that will end at like 11:55. So I have 5 minutes to move before that next scheduled thing. The another practical tip you could take away. Maybe 25-minute meetings, 55-minute meetings. Give yourself that 5-minute buffer zone so that you can move. And you're probably asking yourself, how should I move? Good things that you can do is you can stretch. You can do some stretching. We'll even do a little bit of that towards the end. And another thing that I like to do is any movement in my chair. When I simply stand up and then come back down, that is a squat. I could literally do that 10 times every hour on the hour, and that would be enough movement for me to break up the day. So those are some things that you might want to think about. How am I moving and how frequently am I moving? Another thing you can do to help yourself move is you can rotate your workstation. Say you're at home and maybe you don't have a desk. Maybe you're working at a kitchen table. You could work at that kitchen table, set yourself up nicely so this is your space that you go to majority of the time. But don't feel like you're limited to that space. You could work on the counter for 15 minutes. Go to the couch for 15 minutes. Why I am saying 15 minutes, the reason why I'm saying that is because you're probably not gonna have perfect posture at these places. But if you're doing it for small bouts of period of time, that's gonna help you move. It's gonna help you get nutrients back to your body as blood starts to flow. So if we can rotate our workstations for the purpose of creating movement throughout our day, that's gonna help us. That's gonna help us for the direct duration of our work time. So we covered what is my atmosphere, we covered how am I sitting, we covered how am I moving, have I rotated my workstation? The next question I like to ask is, have I taken a mental break? Sometimes we think about the physical break, but the mental break is just as important. Like I mentioned earlier, when you have increased job stress, you have increased discomfort. So what I usually like to tell the faculty and the staff is we do something called take a break, stretch and reset. We do it every Wednesday. And I lead them through 15 minutes of stretching, but also 15 minutes of imaginative meditation. We're going to do some meditation at the end of this today as well. What that is going to allow you to do is kind of reset your mind. We go through a lot of things. We've been through a lot of things. You guys are resilient. We are making our way through this pandemic. The best thing that we can do for those that we are servicing, our family, our loved ones, is be able to feel our feelings and process our feelings so that we don't have that increased discomfort on the job that this then translates home. We want to be able to kind of go through that day. So on that thought, I would like to ask you one more question. And you may not think of it as an ergonomic question, but I like to approach ergonomics as we are whole people. When you step into your workplace, you can't separate yourself from being that person that you are at home with your kids and your spouse as you are in the workplace. You can't really separate your discomfort that you have at home from your physical discomfort. You can't separate your emotions that you came into the job with ones that you are processing at the job. So we are whole people, body, mind, and spirit. So I want to ask you, why are you here? It's a profound question, big question. But I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and we're going to do a meditation to kind of answer that question for you. So I'm going to close my eyes. And I want you to just take a breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out. And I want you to imagine that as you're breathing, you start to physically and emotionally sense your breath. Maybe you could even picture it coming in and out of your body and fueling your heart and allowing your blood to flow through your body. And I like to say, claim your breath, whatever you feel like you need at this moment. Maybe even ask yourself, your inner self, what do I need at this moment? And you get to have full authority to breathe that in, whether that's more peace or more joy or more compassion for yourself. Maybe you need a little bit more resilience, or maybe you need even forgiveness at this moment. You get to breathe that in, whatever you would like. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to intentionally breathe that in. Now, as we continue to breathe, I want you to let your breath lead you through the rest of this imaginative journey. I want you to sink deeper into your breath. If you're in a place where you can sit back, go ahead and sit back. If you're in a place where you want to lay down, go ahead and lay down, whatever you would like. But I want you to take a second just to imagine that you are looking towards a huge mountain in the desert. Maybe if you can picture Arizona. And you are purposed to climb this mountain. And maybe you keep thinking about what's it gonna take, but you start climbing this mountain and you start feeling the sun beating down on you. Maybe you have feelings of worry like, how am I even gonna navigate this thing? I want you to process all of those feelings and acknowledge them, but maybe you don't have to solve them at this moment. And as you're walking up the mountain, things start to get tough. They start to get heavy. They start to get worrisome. And maybe that's been like a few of us during this pandemic. I know that for myself, I can say that. And maybe it feels like you just want to stop. But I want you to imagine to your right and to your left that your loved ones show up. Just when you thought you had to stop, it's people that would support you and comfort you. And then you keep walking with them. And now I want you to imagine, even when you get to that next barrier, it feels like you want to stop, that maybe your colleagues are to your right and to your left. Maybe people that you've surrounded yourself in community with. Maybe your team, or maybe your faith-based community, or whatever you may have on this side. That they're to your right and to your left, supporting you, walking alongside you. And maybe you get to another barrier and you are wanting to stop, but you picture some of the people that maybe through your job, through your specific life, are within your realm of influence. Maybe that's the people that you service with your work. Maybe that's the people that you talk to on a regular basis. Maybe these are people that you can't even see or fathom, that your work reaches people that are going to help them in some type of way. I want you to even go past that and imagine their families and their friends and their loved ones. And before you know it, you have this huge team of thousands upon thousands of people walking alongside you, fueled by who you are. Sometimes in our day-to-day, it's so easy to see and think that we can't go on, but maybe we just need to stop and think, why are we here? We're here for people. We're people here to help people, to love people, to care for them, and maybe this is what needs to help us keep walking, keep going. So I want you to come back to your breath and just breathe in gratitude for this moment, just appreciation for you even being here and lending into this moment. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. I hope that that little mental break help you answer that question of why are you here? It's always a good reminder for me when days get tough, and days get tough. We all go through life things. But man, there's something about people, interaction, our loved ones, relationship, even the ones we can't see, that fuels us and helps us keep going. So just a little overview. We looked at some questions of some things that will help us in our ergonomic lives and simply our whole lives, hopefully. Thinking about what our atmosphere is. How are we seated? How and how frequent are we moving? Looking at our mental breaks and our physical breaks. And another question of why are you here? So I hope you guys took a lot out of this, and hopefully this is something that you can simply pass on to someone else, because I'm sure it will help them as well. But I'm going to go ahead and pause the music here, and I'm going to open it up for questions. For anyone that has any questions on ergonomics or anything that you felt like was touched on upon this time, I like to say it's our whole selves. I like to think that if we're doing something about ergonomics, then hopefully I'm helping you as a person as well. So feel free to ask any questions or any comments. You can unmute yourself, or you can just drop it in the chat. And we'll give people a few minutes for that.
Kevin, there was one question about the music, and just if you could identify what music that was we were listening to.
Yes, that is my favorite rest music. This guy called William Augusto. And I will write that in the chat so you can search him, but he is amazing. What do you recommend for the jobs that require a lot of standing? That is a great question. It would depend on specifically what your job is, but for jobs that require a lot of standing, you still need that time for rest and sitting. Now, maybe you can't fully control that while you're on the job, but I would ask you, what does your personal life, your home life of rest look like? That would be a good place to start because sometimes we have jobs that we can't really control the full outcomes or the full situation of what is happening there. So think about how you rest at home. Usually, people that are a little bit more healthy and they work out or they have put some weight training to their regiment, that helps with standing because gravity is weighing down on us. So if that's true, the more time that I resist gravity, that's going to help my muscles, my joints and functions. You also might want to look at the shoes that you wear for standing. If you are want to look at some insoles, that would be great, or some shoes that can support yourself better. Usually, that's really good for your joints from your ankle to your knees to your hips. And those are all correlated to other discomforts and things that could happen. So I would look at that first.
Looks like we have a question from Deborah with her hand raised. Deborah, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Good afternoon. Um, any thoughts about these desks that, where you're standing, and is there something else to think about differently than what you were showing us with sitting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So standing desk are all the craze, but they are really good tools if you use them correctly. Standing desks, hopefully, they are going to be made to help you do this motion. They want you to stand up and down. So as I talked about that chair squat, if you're using a standing desk correctly, hopefully you're going up and down a few times throughout the day, maybe about 15 or something like that, because that's going to help you create and promote movement. Now, standing desk can be really good for people that haven't maybe a specific indication from an injury that they can't sit for the whole time and they need to stand. That's going to be really good for them. But what I would tell somebody that's using a standing desk is you want to equally go between sitting and standing. You might not want to spend all your time in a standing position because that's a static position as well. You want to use most of your time, hopefully, moving and helping you to promote movement through the tool of the standing desk. And I see Fernanda, you asked, how did I get into ergonomics? That's a long story, but simply put, is I studied athletic training in my undergrad. And then I went to get my master's in ergonomics and biomechanics at NYU. And ergonomics has been a really great place for me to do that purpose I talked about. I love interacting with people and hopefully helping people have less discomfort along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any more questions? Perfect. Well, if there isn't any more questions, and if anybody would love to connect, I would love to connect with you. You can feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. You can just search Kevin Myers and Columbia University, and I should pop up. Would love to connect with you. Is there a website or one book that you can recommend for more? If you look up ergonomics, um, and there's a couple different sites for ergonomics. But what I would try to tell you is actually go to the ergonomics site at Columbia. You can just simply type in Columbia University ergonomics. We're going to be updating that soon, but there are some external links that are really good to get you a ground basis in ergonomics. And those are all listed on the right hand side of that website. This would be a good place to start. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and hopefully look to connect with some of you guys soon, and have a great one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
And you?